What happens when a Hollywood superstar walks onto a live daytime talk show? And the conversation suddenly takes a turn nobody in the studio expected. Before we jump into it, make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The cameras open on the familiar set. The audience is already clapping as the hosts settle into their seats. The atmosphere feels upbeat, the way it usually does at the start of the show. Joy Behar leans toward the desk with a smile. So today we've got a very interesting guest joining us. She's an Academy Award winner. She's starring in a brand new project that everyone's talking about, and she's also never been shy about speaking her mind. The audience cheers. Sunny Hostin nods. That's true. She's definitely someone who has opinions, and you know we love that here. Whoopi Goldberg chuckles lightly. Well, sometimes we love that. More laughter from the audience. Joy gestures toward the stage entrance. Please welcome Brie Larson. Brie Larson walks out smiling, waving to the crowd. The audience applauds loudly as she greets the hosts one by one and takes a seat at the table. Hi, thank you for having me, Brie says warmly. Sunny smiles at her. Welcome to the show. Whoopi leans back slightly, looking relaxed. So you've been busy. Brie nods. Yeah, it's been a very busy year. Joy jumps in immediately. You've got the new film coming out next month, and people are already talking about it online. Brie laughs lightly. Yeah, people on the internet always have a lot to say. The audience laughs. Sunny looks down briefly at her notes, and then back at Brie. So tell us about the project. What drew you to it? Brie begins explaining the film, the role, the story, the message behind it. She speaks calmly, describing how the character deals with social pressure and expectations. The conversation is relaxed at first. Whoopi nods as Brie talks. That's something a lot of people can relate to, Whoopi says. Sunny tilts her head slightly. But you've also said recently that Hollywood still has a problem with representation. Brie nods slowly. Yes, I think we've made progress, but there's still a long way to go. Sunny presses a little further. What specifically do you mean by that? Brie pauses for a moment before answering. Well, I think certain voices are still overlooked. Certain perspectives. Joy gestures with her hand. That's been an ongoing debate for years. Sunny leans forward slightly. But Hollywood is also one of the most progressive industries in the world. A small murmur runs through the audience. Brie smiles politely but doesn't immediately agree. I think it tries to be, she says. Sunny raises an eyebrow. Tries to be. The tone at the table shifts just slightly. Brie keeps her voice calm. Yes, I think sometimes people believe progress is happening faster than it actually is. Joy glances between them, sensing the change in energy. Sunny responds quickly. Well, many people would argue the opposite, that the industry has bent over backward to push representation. A few audience members clap. Brie notices the reaction but stays composed. I think representation shouldn't feel like something people have to bend over backward to do. The audience quiets. Sunny smiles, but it's a very measured smile. Sure. But there are also people who feel the conversation has become more about politics than storytelling. Brie shakes her head slightly. I don't think acknowledging different voices is political. Sunny replies almost instantly. Some viewers do. Whoopi leans in, trying to keep the tone balanced. Well, both things can be true. Joy nods quickly. Yeah, we've had this conversation here many times. Brie glances toward Sunny. I understand people feel that way, but I think it's important to ask why. Sunny crosses her arms lightly. And I think it's also important to ask whether audiences just want good stories. Brie responds without hesitation. They do want good stories. Sunny looks directly at her. So then why does the conversation keep turning into what sounds like criticism of the audience? The audience reacts with a mix of murmurs and scattered applause. Brie sits back slightly. I'm not criticizing audiences. Sunny lifts her hand gently. I'm just saying, sometimes when actors speak about representation, it can come across as if viewers who disagree are somehow the problem. Brie's expression tightens slightly. I've never said viewers are the problem. Sunny nods slowly. But the implication is sometimes there. Joy shifts in her seat. All right, this is getting interesting. The audience laughs nervously. Brie keeps her voice steady. I think people misunderstand the intention behind those conversations. Sunny leans forward again. Or maybe people understand it perfectly and just disagree. The tension becomes noticeable now. Whoopi looks between them. Ladies. But Sunny continues. Because the truth is, many audiences feel they're being talked down to. Brie responds calmly but firmly. I don't talk down to audiences. Sunny tilts her head. Some of your past comments about critics and viewers sparked a lot of backlash. The audience reacts again. Brie exhales quietly. I've always believed in standing up for what I think is right. Sunny replies quickly. And that's fair. But when those comments suggest certain opinions matter more than others, people notice. Brie looks directly at Sunny. Are you saying my opinion shouldn't matter? Sunny shakes her head immediately. No, I'm saying everyone's opinion matters. Joy interjects with a laugh. And here we go. The audience laughs, but the energy is tense now. Brie leans forward slightly. I think the bigger issue is that whenever someone speaks about inclusion, the conversation becomes defensive. Sunny responds almost immediately. Or maybe the conversation becomes defensive because people feel accused. The audience goes quiet again. Whoopi sighs softly. This is why live television is always fun. Joy nods. You never know where it's going. Brie keeps her tone measured. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just saying that stories are stronger when more perspectives are included. Sunny nods slowly. And I agree with that. There's a brief pause. Then Sunny adds, but where we might disagree is whether Hollywood is already doing that. The audience reacts again. Brie raises her eyebrows slightly. You think the industry has already solved that problem? Sunny shrugs lightly. I think it's made enormous progress. Brie shakes her head. I think there's still resistance. Sunny responds quickly. From who? Brie pauses. That's complicated. Sunny presses again. Is it audiences? Studios? Critics? The tension builds even more as the conversation begins to move away from promotion and into something much deeper. Whoopi glances toward the camera with a knowing smile. Oh boy, I can see where this is heading. Joy laughs. And we're just getting started. Brie looks at Sunny again, calm but firm. I think the real issue is that whenever someone challenges the system, people immediately assume they're attacking something. Sunny meets her gaze. And sometimes people feel like they are. The audience reacts again, louder this time. Whoopi raises her hand slightly. All right, we're going to take a quick breath here because this conversation is clearly heating up. Joy laughs again. And we haven't even gotten to the movie yet. The audience laughs, but the tension at the table remains very real. The camera slowly pans across the hosts and Brie as the crowd continues reacting, some clapping, others murmuring. And it's clear to everyone in the studio that the discussion between Brie Larson and Sunny Hostin is far from over. The audience is still reacting when the conversation resumes, and you can feel the energy in the room has changed. What started as a simple interview has clearly turned into something more serious. Joy leans toward the desk with a half smile. Okay, well, this is why people watch live television. The audience laughs, though the tension is still hanging in the air. Whoopi turns slightly toward Brie Larson. Let's take a breath here for a second. Nobody's fighting yet. More laughter from the audience. Brie smiles a little. I'm not fighting. Sunny Hostin gives a small smile too. Neither am I. Joy raises her eyebrows. Give it time. The crowd laughs again, but the mood is clearly more serious now than it was earlier. Whoopi gestures with her hand. All right, let's go back for a second. Because I think what Sunny is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that audiences sometimes feel like Hollywood is lecturing them. Sunny nods. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Brie listens carefully. Sunny continues. There's a difference between telling a story and telling people what they should believe. The audience murmurs again. Brie leans forward slightly. But those two things aren't mutually exclusive. Sunny responds quickly. They can be. Joy jumps in. I mean, movies have always had messages. Whoopi nods. Always. Sunny agrees. That's true. But audiences today are more sensitive to feeling like they're being judged. Brie shakes her head slightly. I don't think storytelling should avoid difficult conversations, just because some people might be uncomfortable. A few audience members clap. Sunny nods slowly. I agree with that. But sometimes the messaging becomes so heavy that the story itself gets lost. Brie raises an eyebrow. You're assuming the audience can't handle complexity. Sunny replies calmly. No, I'm saying sometimes the message is louder than the story. Joy leans toward Sunny. Well, that's happened in Hollywood before. The audience laughs. Brie looks thoughtful for a moment. I think audiences are smarter than we give them credit for. Sunny nods. They are, which is why they push back when they feel something isn't authentic. There's a brief pause. Whoopi looks at Brie. Let me ask you something directly. Brie nods. Sure. Whoopi folds her hands. When actors speak about representation or politics, do you think sometimes it comes across like they're telling the audience how to think? Brie pauses for a moment before answering. I think sometimes people interpret it that way, even when that's not the intention. Sunny quickly follows up. But intention doesn't always matter if the message feels dismissive. The audience reacts again. Brie turns toward Sunny. Dismissive of who? Sunny answers immediately. Viewers who feel like their perspectives are being ignored. Brie exhales slowly. I don't ignore anyone's perspective. Sunny nods. I believe you. But perception matters. Joy jumps in again. Oh, perception definitely matters. Whoopi chuckles. That's television in a nutshell. Brie glances out toward the audience briefly, then back at the hosts. I just think it's strange that whenever someone talks about inclusion, it turns into a debate about whether they're insulting people. Sunny responds calmly. Because sometimes the conversation sounds like criticism instead of conversation. Brie shakes her head again. But pointing out problems isn't the same as criticizing people. Sunny leans forward slightly. But people hear it that way. Brie's voice becomes a little firmer. Then maybe we should talk about why they hear it that way. The audience reacts with a mixture of applause and murmurs. Joy fans herself dramatically. Oh boy. Whoopi laughs. Joy is loving this. Joy grins. I'm just enjoying the honesty. Sunny keeps her focus on Brie. Let me give you an example. Brie nods. Okay. Sunny continues. A few years ago, you made comments about critics and who should be reviewing certain films. Brie's expression tightens slightly. I remember. Sunny looks directly at her. A lot of people felt those comments suggested that certain critics' opinions didn't matter. Brie responds quickly. That's not what I said. Sunny raises a hand slightly. But that's how it was received. Brie leans forward again. What I said was that more voices should be included in criticism. Sunny nods. Yes, but the way it was framed made some people feel excluded. Brie shakes her head. That was never the intention. Sunny replies calmly. But intention and impact are two different things. The audience reacts again. Whoopi leans back in her chair, watching the exchange carefully. You two are actually having a very real conversation right now. Joy nods. This is what happens when people don't just smile and promote a movie. The audience laughs. Brie looks at Sunny again. I understand why people reacted strongly back then. Sunny nods slowly. Do you? Brie pauses before answering. Yes. Sunny tilts her head slightly. Because some people felt like they were being told their opinions didn't matter if they didn't belong to certain groups. Brie responds firmly. I've never said anyone's opinion doesn't matter. Sunny answers just as quickly. But when representation is framed as a requirement for criticism, some people feel pushed out of the conversation. Brie looks thoughtful. I think criticism is stronger when it includes more perspectives. Sunny agrees. That's true. Brie continues. But historically, certain voices have dominated those spaces. Sunny nods slowly. That's also true. There's a brief moment where the tension softens. Joy looks around the table. Well, look at that. Agreement. The audience laughs. But Sunny adds one more thought. The problem is when expanding the conversation starts sounding like replacing one voice with another. Brie responds calmly. That's not what inclusion means. Sunny says quietly, but that's what some people fear. The audience murmurs again. Whoopi raises her hand slightly. And that fear is real whether people like it or not. Brie nods slowly. I understand fear. Sunny watches her closely. But do you understand frustration? Brie pauses. What do you mean? Sunny explains. There are viewers who feel like Hollywood keeps telling them they're the problem. Brie shakes her head. I don't believe audiences are the problem. Sunny responds. Then why do so many people feel attacked when these conversations happen? The room goes quiet for a moment. Brie takes a breath before answering. Maybe because the conversation is uncomfortable. Sunny nods. Or maybe because it's presented in a way that sounds accusatory. Joy leans forward again. This is getting deeper than we expected today. Whoopi chuckles. We were supposed to be talking about a movie. The audience laughs again. Brie smiles slightly. Well, the movie actually deals with some of these issues. Sunny raises her eyebrows. Oh really? Brie nods. Yes. It's about a character who challenges systems that people assume are already fair. The audience reacts with interest. Sunny looks thoughtful. And what happens when she challenges them? Brie smiles slightly. People push back. Joy laughs loudly. Well, that sounds familiar. The crowd laughs too. Sunny looks directly at Brie again. But pushing back isn't always a bad thing. Brie nods. I agree. Sunny continues. Sometimes pushback is how conversations get clearer. Brie responds calmly. Sometimes pushback is how people avoid change. The audience reacts again. Whoopi shakes her head slowly with a smile. See, this is exactly why daytime television never gets boring. Joy laughs again. And we still have more to talk about. The audience applauds lightly as the tension between Brie Larson and Sunny Hostin continues building. Not explosive yet, but clearly moving towards something bigger. The audience applause fades, but the atmosphere at the table doesn't reset. It lingers, heavier now, like everyone knows the conversation has crossed into something more personal. Whoopi leans forward slightly, looking between Brie Larson and Sunny Hostin. All right, let's keep going, but let's keep it respectful. Joy smirks. Respectful but honest. The audience chuckles. Brie nods. I'm always honest. Sunny responds calmly. So am I. There's a brief pause, and then Whoopi gestures toward Brie. You were saying your film deals with a character challenging systems people believe are already fair. Brie nods. Yes. Whoopi continues. So let me ask you something. When you say systems, are you talking about Hollywood, society, or both? Brie answers without hesitation. Both. The audience reacts softly. Sunny leans in again. And when you say those systems aren't fair, do you believe most people are aware of that? Brie pauses, choosing her words carefully. I think some people are aware. Others aren't. And some don't want to be. A small murmur moves through the crowd. Sunny tilts her head. And you think that's the audience? Brie shakes her head. I think that's people in general. Sunny responds quickly. But when actors say these things publicly, it's the audience who hears it. Brie looks directly at her. And that doesn't mean it's directed at them personally. Sunny's tone sharpens just slightly. But it feels personal to a lot of people. Joy jumps in. Because people take everything personally now. The audience laughs, breaking the tension for a moment. Whoopi nods. That's not wrong. Sunny doesn't break eye contact with Brie. Let me be very clear. I'm not disagreeing with the idea of inclusion. Brie nods. I didn't think you were. Sunny continues. I'm questioning how the message is delivered. Brie leans forward. And I'm saying the message gets distorted no matter how it's delivered. The audience reacts again. Sunny raises an eyebrow. So there's no responsibility on the person delivering it? Brie answers calmly but firmly. There's always responsibility. Sunny follows immediately. Then why does it keep happening? The room goes quiet again. Brie pauses. Because people interpret things through their own experiences. Sunny nods. That's true. But when the same reaction keeps happening over and over again, at some point, you have to ask if the messaging plays a role. Brie's expression becomes more serious. I have asked that. Sunny presses. And what was your answer? Brie takes a breath. That the conversation is bigger than any one person. Sunny leans back slightly. That sounds like avoiding the question. The audience reacts with a louder murmur. Joy's eyes widen a bit. Okay. Whoopi raises her hand slightly. Hold on. But Brie speaks before she can finish. I'm not avoiding anything. Sunny stays composed. Then answer it directly. The tension spikes. Brie looks straight at Sunny. Do I think I've been misunderstood sometimes? Yes. Sunny nods. Okay. Brie continues. But do I think the backlash is always fair? No. A mix of applause and murmurs comes from the audience. Sunny responds. No one said it was always fair. Brie's tone sharpens just slightly. But it's often amplified in a way that drowns out the actual point. Sunny leans forward again. And sometimes the reaction becomes the story because of how the point was made. Brie shakes her head. Or because people focus on the wrong part of what was said. Sunny responds immediately. Or because the way it's said pushes people away. The back and forth is faster now. Whoopi watches closely but doesn't interrupt this time. Brie sits back slightly, then leans forward again. I think people are more willing to critique tone than actually engage with the issue. Sunny answers. Tone matters. Brie nods. Yes, it does. Sunny continues. It determines whether people are open to listening. Brie replies. Or whether they're already closed off. The audience reacts again, louder this time. Joy fans herself again. This is wow. Whoopi chuckles softly. This is a real conversation. Sunny's voice becomes more pointed now. You keep saying people are closed off. Do you think that's fair to say about audiences who simply disagree? Brie answers quickly. I didn't say everyone is closed off. Sunny presses. But you've implied it. Brie shakes her head. I've said some people resist change. Sunny responds. And who decides what change should look like? Brie pauses. That's something we figure out collectively. Sunny gives a slight nod. But when influential voices speak, they shape that conversation. Brie looks at her. And that's why those voices matter. Sunny responds immediately. Exactly. Which is why the way those voices speak matters just as much. The audience reacts again. Whoopi leans forward. All right, let me jump in here for a second. Both Brie and Sunny pause. Whoopi looks at them. You're both making valid points. But I think what's happening here is that you're talking about two different parts of the same issue. Joy nods. Yeah, you're not actually as far apart as it sounds. Sunny glances briefly at Whoopi, then back at Brie. I don't think we're completely disagreeing. Brie nods. I don't think so either. There's a small moment of calm. But Sunny adds, I just think there's a tendency to dismiss criticism as misunderstanding. Brie responds, and I think there's a tendency to dismiss the message because of discomfort. The tension creeps back in. The audience reacts again. Joy sighs dramatically. And we're back. Whoopi smiles slightly. This is what happens when nobody backs down. Brie lets out a small breath. I'm not trying to dismiss anyone. Sunny replies calmly. And I'm not trying to attack you. Brie nods. I know. Sunny continues. But these conversations matter because they affect how people see the industry and the people in it. Brie agrees. They do. Sunny adds. And when people feel alienated, they don't engage. Brie responds. Or they disengage because they don't want to confront uncomfortable ideas. The audience reacts again, louder this time. Whoopi leans back, shaking her head slightly. This is deep for daytime TV. Joy laughs. People at home did not expect this today. Sunny looks at Brie again, her tone softening just slightly. Let me ask you something honestly. Brie nods. Okay. Sunny asks, do you ever worry that the way these conversations happen publicly might push people away instead of bringing them in? The question lands differently, quieter, more personal. Brie pauses longer this time. The audience goes silent. I think about that a lot, Brie admits. Sunny watches her closely. And, Brie continues, I think change is uncomfortable. And sometimes people walk away from discomfort before they really understand it. Sunny nods slowly. That's true. Brie adds. But I also think it's important not to water things down just to make everyone comfortable. The audience reacts again. Sunny responds. There's a difference between watering something down and making it accessible. Brie considers that. That's fair. There's a small pause. Then Sunny says, because if people stop listening, the message doesn't reach them at all. Brie nods slowly. I agree with that. For a brief moment, it feels like the tension might settle. But then Joy leans forward with a grin. Okay, but let me ask the question everybody at home is probably thinking. The audience perks up. Joy continues. Do you think celebrities sometimes overestimate how much influence they should have on these conversations? The crowd reacts loudly. Whoopi laughs. Oh, here we go again. Brie smiles slightly, but you can see she knows this could shift things again. That's a complicated question. Sunny watches her closely. Joy presses. No, it's a simple one. Yes or no? The audience laughs. Brie shakes her head lightly. It's not that simple. Sunny jumps in. But it's worth answering. Brie takes a breath. I think anyone with a platform has a responsibility to use it thoughtfully. Sunny nods. Okay. Brie continues. But I don't think speaking up means overestimating influence. Sunny responds. Unless the message disconnects from the audience. Brie answers. Or unless the audience refuses to engage. The tension rises again, not explosive, but steady and undeniable. Whoopi looks toward the camera briefly, then back at the table. And this is why conversations like this don't end quickly. Joy nods. Nope. And we're not done yet. The audience applauds as the discussion between Brie Larson and Sunny Hostin continues to balance between understanding and disagreement, neither side fully backing down and neither side fully giving in. The audience applause carries on a little longer this time, almost like they're reacting not just to what's being said, but to the tension that's been building for the last several minutes. Whoopi Goldberg exhales and leans back in her chair, shaking her head with a half smile. Well, this turned into something. Joy Behar laughs. This is not the segment the producers planned. The audience laughs, some clapping again. Sunny Hostin sits upright, composed, but you can tell she's still fully engaged. Brie Larson adjusts slightly in her seat, taking a breath, her expression calmer now but still focused. Whoopi looks between them. All right, before we wrap this up, I want to make sure we land this in a place where people understand what just happened here. Joy nods, because people at home are definitely talking right now. Sunny glances briefly toward the audience, then back at Brie. I think this was an important conversation. Brie nods. I do too. There's a short pause, not uncomfortable but reflective. Whoopi leans forward again. Let me ask one final thing, and I want both of you to answer this honestly. The audience quiets down. When you walk away from this table today, what do you think people should take from this conversation? Joy leans back, folding her arms. Oh, I like this question. Sunny nods slightly. Brie looks thoughtful. Whoopi gestures toward Brie first. You go ahead. Brie takes a breath. I'd want people to understand that conversations about inclusion and representation aren't about blaming anyone. The audience listens quietly. Brie continues. They're about making space for more voices. And that can feel uncomfortable sometimes, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. A few people clap. Sunny listens, nodding slowly. Brie adds, and I think it's okay to disagree. But I hope people don't shut down the conversation just because it's difficult. More applause, slightly louder this time. Whoopi nods. All right, she turns to Sunny. Your turn. Sunny takes a breath, then speaks calmly. I think conversations like this only work if people feel heard. The audience murmurs in agreement. Sunny continues. And that includes people who agree and people who don't. She glances briefly at Brie. When audiences feel like their perspectives are dismissed, they disengage. And when they disengage, the conversation stops. The room stays quiet, attentive. Sunny adds, so I think the takeaway is we need to have these discussions in a way that invites people in, not pushes them out. A strong round of applause follows. Joy nods. That's fair. Whoopi smiles slightly. That's very fair. There's a moment where the energy softens. Not because the disagreement is gone, but because both sides have finally slowed down. Joy looks at Brie with a grin. So, you thought you were just coming here to talk about your movie. The audience laughs. Brie laughs too, shaking her head. I did. Joy continues. And instead you got all of this. More laughter. Brie smiles. But honestly, I don't mind it. Sunny gives a small nod. Neither do I. Whoopi looks toward the camera. And that's what this table is for. The audience applauds again. But Joy suddenly leans forward again, unable to resist one last comment. I will say this though, social media is about to have a field day with this. The audience reacts loudly, laughter, clapping, a few surprised reactions. Whoopi laughs. Oh, it already is. Sunny smiles slightly. That's inevitable. Brie nods. Yeah, I'm sure it is. The camera angle widens slightly, capturing the full table as the conversation starts to wind down. Whoopi turns back to Brie. Before we let you go, tell people where they can see the film. Brie shifts back into promotion mode, though the energy still carries traces of everything that just happened. It's coming out next month in theaters and streaming. I'm really proud of it, and I hope people watch it and have their own conversations. Joy nods. Well, based on today, I think they will. The audience laughs again. Sunny adds, and hopefully those conversations stay as respectful as this one. There's a light reaction from the crowd, a mix of agreement and amusement. Brie smiles. I hope so too. Whoopi looks toward the camera one last time. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, but the audience applause starts rising again, almost cutting her off. The camera begins to fade out of the segment as the hosts exchange small smiles and side comments off mic. But the story doesn't end there. Because within minutes of the segment airing, clips of the exchange between Brie Larson and Sunny Hostin start circulating online. Short clips hit platforms like Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok, each one focusing on different moments. Some highlighting Brie's comments about discomfort and change, others focusing on Sunny's points about audience perception. Hashtags begin trending. Viewers quickly take sides. Some users praise Brie Larson for standing firm and not backing down. Others applaud Sunny Hostin for challenging what they see as a disconnect between Hollywood and everyday audiences. Clips of the exchange rack up thousands, then millions of views. Comment sections fill up fast. Some people call it one of the most honest conversations they've seen on daytime TV in a long time. Others say it perfectly captures the divide between entertainment figures and viewers. Media outlets start picking it up. Headlines describe it as a heated exchange, a tense debate, and a rare unscripted moment on live television. Backstage, after the show wraps, the mood is much calmer. Brie is seen speaking briefly with Sunny off camera. There's no argument, no raised voices, just a quiet conversation. Whoopi later mentions in a post-show clip that moments like this are exactly why live discussions matter. Joy jokes about it again, saying, "Well, nobody can say we're boring." The audience that was in the studio continues talking about it even as they leave, some replaying parts of the discussion on their phones, others debating the points they just heard. By the evening, the segment has become one of the most talked about moments of the day. Not because it was explosive, but because it felt real. Two strong perspectives, neither backing down, neither fully agreeing, and both forcing the conversation forward. And now it's your turn. What do you think about this moment between Brie Larson and Sunny Hostin? Was it a necessary conversation, or did it go too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories.